Actually, here the books, the folders are.
Yeah, please don't sit in the other seat.
The presenter can only see so much, so that's why.
I know. Is she on there yet?
She's taking a break,
Okay.
but, and the reason why she wants to be able to see everyone, she can only see.
This many?
Yeah, so she told me to put chairs for guys.
Yeah, so these are all elected. You can use it for transition class. You can rest your response on there, but you're not allowed to sit there. Absolutely. Oh, you are. Oh, you are. I didn't hear that. Oh, nice to meet you as well. I didn't know. I thought you were coming to the conference, so. Yes. Well, you know what? I think, you know what I did? I hate to say this, but I left my notes in the thing, so I need to go and get my notes for myself. I don't know if you can use that microphone there. Or maybe you can just talk. I gotta go run and grab my notes. So good to meet you. Got it. Okay.
I am. Hang out with Brandon, you know, yeah, they're just, they have like. I am a retired teacher. I got in my next and I do a lot of consulting here locally, and then I work with and I'm a trainer. And my background is very much in the low density population. That's where I like to shine. What makes you smile? What's that? What makes you smile? What makes you smile? Oh my goodness, my almost 23-year-old daughter, my family, we're gonna have you sit where the folders are, because we have one of the main presenter is on Zoom, and she can only see where we got folders. I was actually gonna just. I'll leave my computer. Oh, yeah. Yep, I did you there. that Stephanie, you want to ask her? She cannot only live.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very important information.
I think you can see me, Stephanie, but I can't see you.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Definitely hear you. There you are. Stephanie, I'm facilitating today's session. I'll be introducing you as well.
Yeah, she thought I was going to introduce, we didn't know we had a fancy introducer, so that's awesome.
Got it.
Hi.
I'm introducing everyone today. Just wanted to.
Okay.
Good morning. You have her bio, I assume.
I'm gonna embarrass you about your social media.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you too, if you're like. Usual conversation. So, you know, and then Stephanie will do that. Okay, sorry. Nice to see you, Karen. Well, hey, Karen. Hi, Pam. How's the last coming? And it's so exciting. Okay. It's like such a big positive.
Tracy's on. She started at okay, slow hours. She doesn't have to walk her faces or anything anymore. That's a huge transition. She was just that. And I knew her coming that day. One night I have to back up. So, but that's really exciting.
That's what I was wondering. So, yes. No, they have to be tracked. That is so exciting. I love that. I always train and I got to tell about it, but I never know that there's a small list they have. So we just got you want to set something up different I mean, very sweetly, they're sweaty for Stephanie is. No,
You're gonna do.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I got this.
I'm actually very comfortable with that. I just got.
Yeah, no, with Stephanie, I have her.
Are you using microphones or no? For the.
So we're not gonna use microphones. Everyone can hear and I'm not sure how big.
Not illegal, it's packed on.
Is it? Down, I'm recording it, but if there's something important. You tested. Hey there. Okay, that's something. I didn't make a sign. You are. It's so funny because my best friend is from River and my friend from the last teacher. She's like, yeah, that's the way to talk about it. No. All right, so. Welcome. Sometimes the directors want it. That wants it. So, yep. You do got me.
Each subscription comes with one certificate. One person can go through, take the question, take the things along with this. Each of them is, these operate. And then you can install videos after. Yeah. Videos, you can, play them in the lab. Use that, partners. So if you ever want that, yeah, we also do the trainer, so she come down from trainer, so. That's really nice. So it's not cheap, but get that and then that will, I can't believe how much work. We were talking about. Wow.
We were still getting just, well, waiting like an egg or the construction area, just some of those kind of things. Yeah. Yep. Like, yep. That's what I told her. Just that we just, we have to, well, and I think we're thinking about having just Tracy be after the training, you're like, yeah, this is more than just a care position. I'm just, I don't mean it that way. I don't mean it that way. But, so then that's kind of led to conversations with our high school principal about Wendy's role as transition facilitator, so it's kind of like. Yeah.
I was in the district.
So that really after the training, we gotta sit down. Let's see, we gotta rework what we were thinking. Yeah.
Different teachers, and then that teacher comes with. And then their supervisor, so that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna, first start talking that, we're just gonna start with the kids. Yeah. Yep. We need to kind of- Yeah. Now that I know what I know, it's something that happens. Yeah, we're switching Wendy's role is gonna change. She'll do that. She will love that. She will thrive.
Remember Jenny from?
Yeah.
Introducing my. Yeah.
Not a good time to be a Karen. I'm not a Karen. So there's not a Karen. I promise. I promise. Kids like to call me Karen. Oh, funny.
Well, what time is it? It's 11:03. Okay, let's do that. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. You don't need a microphone. I'm turning it up. Good morning, everyone. Everybody can hear me? I am Dr. Alicia Mosley, and I am so excited and we are so fortunate today to have three amazing folks here for this session. Just like if you're on the airplane, you're in Rockville, so this is not what you're supposed to go, then we'll give you some time now to transition. But with all of these guys, as a special director myself in the transition program, I'm really excited. We're going to be so So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce our presenters today. We have part of our session in Mapping Resources, Stephanie Corby. And Stephanie is joining us online. Can you see her? Stephanie, speak. Stephanie, say hi to us.
Hi, everybody.
There she is. Okay. So Stephanie, this is Alicia. I'm gonna just make sure people know how phenomenal that is you are, real quick, okay? So Stephanie has over 40 years in special education in her career. And it includes technical education, specializing in transition to adult life for students. Her leadership is at state and local and even national level, and she helps implement the transition requirements of IDEA. Yeah. As an adjunct faculty member at the University of St. Thomas, Minneapolis, she trained graduate level teachers in transition for youth with disabilities. She also is an author, and she's co-authored a textbook on transition.
sales consultant, position assessment and curriculum for BlackReady.com. Make sure you write that down. Reading smart. Yes, so don't write it down. Just make sure you have it hard. So Hattie has worked over 30 years in business, ranging from big corporate to small startups. For the past 10 years, she was part of a school administrators. She helped us get us together, right, to make sure our scholars have what they need. For partnerships with Project Discovery, the PACE Lab, the at the point of sale, with continuation and implementation. Her business experience makes her a great partner for educators who are focusing on their scholar transition. I'd like to welcome Heidi. I'm not gonna ask you better than that. All right, and we also have Pam Stock, who's a retired special educator, and also a teacher transition consultant. She does project discovery training as well. So Pam has 36 years of educational experience in special ed, and most recently 10 years working in the PACE Lab Project Discovery at the Crosby Ironton School. Pam is licensed in elementary education, special education, and development of cognitive disabilities, moderate, severe, and autism spectrum disorder. Pam brings a huge enthusiasm for paid transition and helping scholars get the skills they're ready for work. So please join me in welcoming Pam. A collective round of applause for all three presenters today. And we will go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Introduction. Wait, they didn't clap one more time. One more round of applause. I'm just gonna speak really quickly and then I'll get it into Steph Corby, but I wanted to introduce myself again. I'm Heidi Johnson, so I've been working with schools in Minnesota now for 12 years. So yeah, it's been a great run. I also wanted just to acknowledge someone else that this presentation has kind of morphed over the last couple of years. So Cheryl Hubbard George, who's the director for exceptional children out of Florence District 3 County in Lake City, South Carolina, was where part of this presentation first came to be. Pam really saw it on Project Discovery and Education Associates kind of had a Wednesday webinar that they have, and Cheryl Hubbard George presented, and Pam was on that, really liked it, so that we presented that at the Wisconsin Transition Conference last year. And then I'd also like to acknowledge Nikki Lack from South Washington County Schools. She's helped us just as a kind of a consultant, looking over, editing, giving us some feedback on our presentation. So definitely wanted to do that as well. And I did want to just tell you what you have in front of you. So you have a packet for resource mapping, aligning resources to prepare students with disabilities for the workforce. On the front side of the folder, there is my website, worklifeready.com, that you can see /resource mapping. That's where we have all of these documents digitally. So we have the PowerPoint, everything that's in this folder is on that resource mapping. We also have our rough video of Steph and I practicing this conference, but I'm planning on recording this and replacing our workshop on there. So I just wanted to let you know. And then on the left-hand side, of course, of your folder, this is the presentation that we'll be walking through today. So you can kind of make notes on it. And then behind that, these are the mapping resource worksheets and documents. If you would like to implement this at your school or at your school district, Stephanie's going to be going through these resource mapping worksheets. And then on the right-hand side, we have a funding sources overview. This was made by Education Associates. They're the maker of Project Discovery and Achieve Life Skills. They did just a terrific job. There's a lot of money out in the schools right now for the American Rescue Plan, and they did a really nice correlation to Project Discovery and how that funding correlates. Long story short, any of this money that's out there in the schools right now, you guys can buy PACE, Project Discovery, all of that kind of stuff falls under that, and this is kind of the proof of that, so I wanted to just give you that. And then behind that are just some brochures that explain the different programming options. So the project discovery piece, and then replicated reality is another program that I have. If you guys want to learn more about that, I can sure talk about it. So I just wanted to let you know what's in your packet. And
As soon as Stephanie starts talking, she'll pop up on the screen.
okay, so Stephanie, I think we're ready to go.
Okay, great, Heidi. Thank you. And welcome, everyone. I am so excited to be here. It's really a privilege and honor. I've been retired for 4 years and moved just last spring to Spokane, Washington. So I'm here with you virtually, but it's 2 hours earlier Pacific time in Spokane, Washington. But even though I've been retired, I haven't really totally retired because my passion for transition just it's kind of a lifelong passion of mine. And I don't really see myself like totally stepping away from it anytime soon. But the MACE conference always was my favorite conference to go to as a special ed director, because I would get not only the networking and the collegial interactions, which were just filled me up after the beginning of the school year, but it was also going to sessions like this one. I'm glad you chose to come to our session. I looked at the program. It looks so exciting, and I wish I could be there with you to even celebrate MACE's 50th anniversary. That's pretty awesome. So this session that you're at, like Heidi kind of alluded to, came about because, first of all, Heidi and I had been working together when I was a director in Burnsville, and I purchased the PAYS and Project Discovery evidence-based curriculum. After I retired, I became a trainer for Project Discovery. But Heidi and I just really connected with our passion for transition for students with disabilities and preparing them for adult life. And so we came together around this presentation. You'll see the first part is really focusing on the transition piece. And then the second reason is because we realized in the last 2 years, students with disabilities have really lost ground when it comes to transition. They haven't been able to be out in the community, getting authentic experiences, work experiences, interacting with community members. So, I mean, all the things that the students have lost the last couple of years is just kind of highlighted the reason to do this. And then in light of these federal funds that are time limited, that can be used to support students to make up some of this ground that they lost along the last couple of years, to really help them jettison into just a real, very different work field and the market for careers, and preparing them at a higher level than we have before, really looking at careers that go beyond just basic entry level careers. So that is really the premise of this presentation, and it's to align all those resources, the people, the focus on what's happening in schools, both academically as well as the money. So the money and the funds are just really a small piece of this. So looking at what are the resources, both current and potential, to support the preparation of students with disabilities for the workplace. So we'll be sharing information with you today related to career pathways and evidence-based curriculum, and how practicing resource mapping can be an efficient and effective way for you as a leader to improve post-secondary outcomes for students with disabilities. Next.
Hold on.
We're going to go to the next slide.
Just give me a second, Pam.
Okay.
What's happening? I'm Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so super. So what needs to happen? What really needs to happen to prepare in our schools to prepare students with disabilities for the workforce? So we're going to examine this at a closer level as far as what needs to happen to assist students to have successful careers. And we'll address who needs to be involved, and then how resource mapping can help you accomplish this. Next. So what are some of the possible solutions? What needs to occur in our schools? Here's like 4 probing questions. And I know Heidi's going to facilitate a discussion amongst yourselves about some of these questions before I continue on. And we'd like to have you report back. So Heidi,
Yeah. You guys, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna break you guys into 4 different groups and give you each a question, because we didn't want this to be deer in the headlights where we ask you all to think about it and nobody wants to talk. So we thought if we kind of grouped you off, so if you guys, Karen and Jenny, do you guys want to take the first question? And then how about the 3 of you guys take the second question? Okay, and then you 3 wouldn't mind taking the 3rd question, and then the 3 of you could take the 4th question, and you can join. There. Yeah, so what about? Okay, and then just welcome her in your group. Okay, so if you guys can just take kind of a few minutes to think about the question that you have, and then we're gonna have, we'll give you like maybe 5 minutes to think about it, and then have appoint one person to kind of talk back to the group.
Is everybody's temperature wise okay that, yeah, we're gonna close that door for now. Thanks.
They're really just introducing themselves. Once they all are done. Yeah. Yeah.
Feel private on that. Well, I just heard a lot of questions from that. I'm not entirely sure that. Yeah.
Talk for a couple more minutes and then pick one person to kind of let, answer the question. Okay, thanks. Okay, what do you guys think? You think you could speak just a little bit about the question? So I had you guys do question one. For one of you that wants to maybe talk. Oh, you didn't talk about that? Okay, that's okay. Well, maybe talk about what you talked about.
Oh, no, we just talked about one, we didn't talk about Tuesdays.
Oh, we're gonna talk. Okay, I'm like, okay. But if you guys don't mind kind of talking loud so Stephanie can hear you, kind of how I'm talking, or if you can't talk loud, come talk to the computer so she can hear you. Okay, Stephanie, they're ready to go. Question one.
Okay.
We basically just talked about how to best meet the workforce needs is just provide opportunities, like multiple opportunities for all.
I like that, Karen. I mean, I always tell people, transition is not a one-shot thing. They think, well, if I buy this from you, am I gonna have transition handled? It's like, you know what, no, it is not a one-trick pony. You need to have lots of different options. I really like that, Karen. Okay, all right, how about two?
Thank you.
Yeah, so we talked that one of the big resources right now is the amount of money that's available to school districts. There is a lot of money out there right now to help with resources, physical resources, it's always available to like just that capacity to do things with that connection money or student capacity really to understand that. But they really like that. Question 3 was the one. We come up with a lot for that, but resources we really the funding of schools and the greater flexibility.
So,
I heard flexibility
and
is that-
funding.
in funding. Okay, thank you.
Okay, how about 3? Favorite 3 back there? What system barriers exist? Is there a plan to address these barriers?
So, yeah, so we talked, we began to talk about something, finding appropriate
Finding appropriate transition assessments, Steph? Sorry.
Okay,
and also we said that connection to the county services, making sure that our teachers know that connection. What they need is a better understanding of how the county can keep them still in school.
Okay, county connection, since
Okay.
the teachers understand capabilities of the county and understand the resources that are available while the students are still in school. That seems to be a barrier.
We also talked about that from a big systems perspective is teachers trying to just get their credits to graduate and not really focusing on the transition.
So huge. Focusing on the academics, focusing on that and not really doing transition, which is probably what a lot of students need, right? Okay,
thank you.
okay. All right, how about 4? Who are the key individuals that can make an impact on the system?
Mentioned that whole idea of focusing only on credits. So some of the key individuals we talked about that first team, that IEP team that first starts working on transition with the student. Those counselors, those case managers, how are they working with the student, learning about their strengths, their interests, creating those opportunities and helping them actually develop a post-secondary plan. We also talked a lot about community partners.
Mhm.
And how do we develop community partnerships that offer a variety as well as actual opportunity for employment? And obviously the staff piece, right? Having the appropriate staffing so you can have job coaching and the teachers who are knowledgeable and know what those experiences are. I think that turnover piece is hard right now. People adequately trained to support kids in the community.
Student voice can also be, young adult voice, and also have a nice impact on the system. It tends to move people. And what-
You hear
They
that,
wanna hear-
Steph?
they wanna
Student
hear
voice.
from students.
Student voice, stuff,
Yeah, students' voice.
yeah.
Yes. Well, what an excellent discussion. Does anybody have any other comments from any of the questions that they heard responses to? You can tell it's very complex system in order to get solutions here.
Well, and speaking, Steph, I'll speak as a teacher, this is Pam. Everything that you're saying administratively about teachers is right on. I think the biggest struggle becomes the feeling, the overwhelming sense of stress and pressure. And the transcripts and making sure they have enough and this and that teachers, quite frankly, even forget to put together a transition plans. It's talked about at an annual IEP meeting because it has to get talked about. But unless you're a real advocate yourself, like I am, and I was in my career, honestly, it doesn't happen, sadly. And that's why I think resource mapping and having collaborative relationships with a multitude of partners in the community. And if you establish that, teachers see that, they see that you're putting effort into it, they're gonna be more willing. But if they think they're the ones that have to do it all, it's just one more thing on their plate that's already overflowing.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam. That's great. Kind of, in summary, I heard you talking about needing more opportunities, having flexibility, using the funding in a directed, concerted way, having appropriate assessments for students, involving the county as a partner, and just, having the staffing to implement your systems for preparing students for the workplace, including career counseling and designing career pathways. And all this is exactly right on. But it's a complex, the solutions are complex, require multiple players, like Pam was saying, and then being in coordination with those other systems. The thing is, special ed cannot do this alone. It really is interagency, interdisciplinary journey that we're on in preparing students for the workplace. Next. So for students to have successful careers in their communities, we need to prepare them for the demands of the workplace. What's expected? What do they need to learn from educators? What do they need to learn from community partners? And through these authentic experiences during the middle and the high school years. And you'll see that we're going to be talking a lot about the middle school as a beginning place. We have a report that's on the website that really stresses the importance of middle school engagement. But doing this in order to determine the trajectory for students going into their post-secondary in career life. Next. Well, who are the students? Well, you think that's kind of evident, we're at the Special Ed Directors Conference, but we are talking about addressing students with disabilities in this presentation, but most of the information it applies to all students. It really does apply to all students. Also, we are talking about all students with disabilities, not just some disability areas. We're talking about all students that have an IEP, focusing on the middle, the high school, and those critical, the transition years of students are still engaged in public education from 18 to 21. Next. Who are the players? Well, you can kind of see this list. Take a look at the list on this slide, and you'll see which are our traditional or typical players and partners in this journey of preparing students for adult life. But I'd like you just to take a minute to talk to your neighbor and think about, can this list be expanded? Who else in your community or who else in your school needs to or could be involved in this partnership of preparing students with disabilities for adult life and in the workplace? So take a minute. We're just going to take a pause, talk to your neighbors, see if you can come up with some other partners.
Yeah, maybe just say in 4 groups, guys, if you don't mind, and then see if, you know, each group can maybe come up with maybe one more.
Maybe the top 2, sometimes the top 3. Yeah, it's really frustrating. Career technical ed, oftentimes doesn't engage. Yeah, it's great. Maybe.
Okay, have you had enough time to think about any other partners?
We talked about the county
Okay, all right,
and our transportation partners, because that counted.
really good. Did you hear that?
Excellent.
Scott?
Yeah, excellent. Transportation.
Transportation partners in the county.
Any others?
Come up with anything? I don't mean to put you guys on the spot. I know it's hard. Yeah, okay, you're great.
Talked about mentors, leader coaches, business partners that aren't considered in that last bullet.
Okay.
Team tech center, like different sides.
Oh, so they talked about mentors, coaches. They also talked about employers that are maybe not included in employers and other community partners. An example they gave was like at Best Buy, the tech team there.
Oh,
Tech team, is that
Yeah, like a
team
team
center?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Well, or like a youth organization that draws kids in, engaging with them in partnership, because what they can do, they can also provide mentors. And they can also be sort of like that support if say a teen center is aware that this kind of collaboration is, you're trying to get that going.
Yeah.
Those folks that work at those centers can encourage those kids to have a voice, to get involved, to talk about what they really want. So they're like, almost like, kind of like a therapist of sorts, be their mentors. So that's a good piece.
That's awesome. We have one more. They have one more community
okay.
Education. Community ed.
Ah, excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
Community ed a lot. We shouldn't.
That's
Good resource.
wonderful.
Well, that's super. I just want to give you guys a lot of kudos because I think special ed directors themselves are very skilled in creating networks, in partnerships and connections Because if anyone knows that we can't do it alone, it's you guys. It's a matter of getting some of that synergy and energy at the school level, at the district level, getting people to engage in those partnerships. But you guys are like super skilled with that. And I don't know if it comes with the job or you had it beforehand, but I have not seen a special ed director that doesn't know how to do strong collaboration and partnership. So,
We have a couple more groups, Stephanie, that might.
oh, okay.
Back in the back there, or whoever wants to speak up.
What do we, should we go group 3 next? Did you guys come up with anything that hasn't been mentioned? Not to put you guys on the spot, but
Everything we mentioned.
everything's been mentioned. How about 4, group 4?
Advisory council,
It's advisory council stuff.
oh, the special ed advisory council, the SEAC,
The parent,
the parents, yeah,
parent special advisory council.
got it.
Really good one. That was,
Talked about, just, people who support the education. The people in charge. Not just the educators.
I couldn't hear that.
okay, so
They're
in-
operational.
yeah, so she's talking about building operations, the ground.
Ah,
The maintenance people, I mean, they.
yes,
There's connect so well usually with tech, nutrition,
yeah,
really good, that's great.
right. And all those people can mentor students in those particular, in the occupations that are tied to those industries. So that's excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide. And this is really getting at industry standards. And how do you know that you are successfully preparing students with disabilities for the workplace, or what it is that's going to be needed and expected of them when they go into the workforce? Well, one of the answers is really by aligning the Common Core state standards, which you guys are all aware of, and aligning that with specific industry standards. So really knowing, and that would be done in order to validate the standards of the career that the student is getting ready to practice in. So if they have a career pathway, what are the industry standards that are going to allow them to be prepared to enter that industry? This is really key in assisting students with disabilities to achieve their desired post-secondary outcomes. We want to be teaching them the right things and the things that are going to be expected of them once they enter the workforce. Next. So why really are we having to pay special focused attention on all this? Why do we need to do this? Well, research really has verified that there still exists a discrepancy between students with disabilities and non-disabled students when it comes to participation in post-secondary education and also in the outcomes that are achieved. So this, here's a couple, the bullets really kind of show some of the research that transition from high school, in order for that to be successful for students with disabilities, really depends on a combination of rigorous academic instruction, technical skill building during that middle and high school years, and then authentic work-based experiences. And that along with, and this was mentioned earlier, can't emphasize as much as is needed, career counseling. Really career counseling, having access to good career counseling from either guidance counselors or vocational rehab counselors. So this will help kind of close up that discrepancy that we see. It still exists even when we started transition, back when I was there, when it started in Minnesota in 1988. Some of these national studies are really still showing that discrepancy, and we can close that gap. We're able to do that. We have the skills in the curriculum and expertise to do that. But like I said, special ed can't do it alone. So next. So why do this work? Like I mentioned, it's we need to be partnering with career and technical education, because we find that from research that for students to participate in career and technical education increases their school completion and then also increases how successful they can be in post-secondary life. So that participation teaches both hard skills, which are the job-specific skills, and also teaches the soft skills, which are really the employability and the life skills. And then the people skills, we all know, because we've been in the workplace for a long time, we know that people skills is really essential and critical for obtaining a job and keeping a job. So these are skills that students with disabilities need to be explicitly taught. Next. So when should students with disabilities participate in career and technical education? Well, I kind of alluded to it a little earlier, but beginning in middle school, they really need to build their self-awareness and learn about careers and develop and start anyway on their career pathway. So middle school has been reported to be the ideal time to engage students in career and technical education, that learning in order to enhance their career exploration. And this also, it doesn't mean that that career pathway is etched in stone, just because they're starting and they identify a certain career area. As they have more experiences, as they do career exploration, and as you have annual IEP meetings, those that career path can change and evolve over time, but it's a matter of getting on the pathway to really have students have experiences and evolving interests. And this continues into high school and of course beyond. Next. So interrupting that early disengagement is why we want to start in middle school. It's another major reason for students to participate in career and technical education at the middle school level, because it can break that emerging pattern of social and school disengagement before it's too late. So when students participate in high interest, high engagement learning experiences, they really are more likely to come to school and be fully present in their learning. I don't feel like I'm telling you anything new. It's just really emphasizing that that middle school is an important time to get them involved in experiential learning in CTE, career and technical education classes and courses and learning. Next. So let's take a look at where this happens, where some of the potential places for career and college readiness occur. Next. So one of the places is really in these introductory career and technical education courses where they do exploratory and exploration. It provides the students with opportunities for career exploration skills development, and it's critical for career and college readiness. And some of this happens in CTE classes, you know, it can happen through special ed classes as well. But I think it kind of depends on what's available in your school district and what you can create through your partnerships to have these kinds of experiences for students. Excuse me. Excuse me. Next. Can't emphasize enough that experiential and authentic learning experiences are really the way to teach students, and for them to intrinsically understand themselves as it relates to what I'm interested in, what can I do, how are the limitations of my disability going to impact me in certain careers. So having those experiences are essential for applying both the academic skills they're learning and also those CTE, career and technical education skills. And they occur both in the school environments, within the schools, and in the community. So for example, the for-profit businesses and non-for-profit businesses would be a location for them for this to occur through service learning, internships. Someone mentioned earlier mentorships, also through special ed work experience programs, and through CTE cooperative, which is their work-based cooperative programs. These are some of the places. There might be many more, and I'm sure there are, but those are kind of the big places. Next. So some of the steps to on a career pathway, let's take a look at those. Students with disabilities travel on their own personal career pathway, and along the way, they develop that self-awareness, which is so critical to understanding how their disability impacts them, who they are in relationship to their desired goals. And they acquire knowledge. They acquire knowledge about careers, and then they create their own career pathway this way. Most importantly, they learn about careers that are a good fit for them. And I can't tell you how many times teachers have said to me, well, on their IEP, the student wants to be a football player, the student wants to be an astronaut. You know, they're picking these occupations or careers that are, everyone knows, are way beyond the scope of maybe their disability or their ability. And so how do you help them set their own goals? Well, it's really by them having it's not by saying, well, you're never going to be a football player. It's really by having experiences that help teach them and for them to learn what's a good fit for them. Next. So there's some essential components that prepare students or that are part of the process for connecting students to careers. And that really includes mapping out, excuse me, mapping out a career pathway that combines both their education and training. It utilizes a work-based kind of learning component to it. And then also it provides necessary support services. So all three of those are critical. I'm just gonna say them one more time. Combines the education and training for them. It also combines a work-based learning component where they're having experiential, authentic learning. And then the support services, like mentioned earlier, you know, to have the staffing like a job coach or other support services that are going to help students be successful. Next. What are some possible solutions? I want to suggest a couple here, and that's kind of the crux of this part of the resource mapping process. Some possible solutions and next steps would be to develop a district action team that would incorporate any existing, it could be incorporated into existing committee, doesn't have to be a new committee, but this action team really focuses on preparing students for the workforce and having those critical team players and partners that we talked about earlier is part of that committee. So we're going to talk a little bit about what this action team would do and what their role would be in your district or school. Next. The first thing they would do is really look at existing resources and occupational data about your community or in your region. What are the jobs? What are the occupations that are available to focus on preparing students for? If they're going to be working in the community, what kinds of jobs and occupations are in your community? So on this slide, you'll see there's a link to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, and that provides the action committee, action team that you're pulling together, maybe a first step in finding out what's needed, what kinds of jobs are needed in our community to prepare, and then how are we going to prepare students for those jobs? So next, the district action committee would then really help facilitate, if you're in a larger district, depending on the size of your district, but forming a school-based committee brings it down to more of the teacher, administrator level. So after taking that deep dive into the resources and occupational data from the labor Department of Labor, you're going to have just a whole bunch of information. So that needs to be taken a closer look at, but it'll inform the committee, whether it's at a district level or school level, what the next steps should be, including sharing the data with schools, middle schools and high schools. Then also looking at maybe some other factors that might look at dropout data, might look at reasons why students have become disengaged in the learning environment. The district action committee will facilitate or could facilitate school-based committees with having a similar focus. But you can see here we have resource mapping is one of the action steps or one of the tasks that that an action committee can do is start looking at that resource mapping. And we're going to be jumping into that in just a minute here. Next. So this action committee would, of course, it would create an action plan. So the district action team and school-based teams will develop a relevant action plan resulting in steps that they would address for students with disabilities to become career ready in your community. The teams would share that information with each other, or they could share and collaborate on the action steps. So these are a few things that an action committee would do. They could, set up a simulated career discovery lab, just a variety of things. The next slide, if we go on to the next slide, has more suggested action activities that a district or school-based team could do. One that I really want to focus on, because these are just some potential tasks of an action team that could be incorporated into their action plan, but it's so critical to train both the special ed and the CTE staff on the execution of some of the curriculum that needs to be delivered, some of the specialized curriculum that has to be delivered with efficacy, and in a way that it's going to really have the fidelity of how that curriculum is intended in order to have the desired results. So having that training, I think it would be one of the important action steps of a committee. But you can see a few more things here. We've mentioned mentoring before, that's on the list. How do you make your efforts known to school board members, things like that. So again, a district action team and or a school action team focused on students with disabilities for preparation for the workplace. So let's jump into the resource mapping. So the next slide is, what is resource mapping? Well, how many of you are familiar with resource mapping? Just indicate if you are. A couple? Okay, good. Well, I think it's something I wish I would have had more in my toolkit as a special ed director. And this is a very concrete way of doing it, but it's a strategy for identifying not just the resources you have, but analyzing those resources that you have currently in the district and community in the school. And it's more than just, I always focus so much on my funds that I have to use, but to focus on what programs are available, what services are available, what other resources, including community and school resources, that can be brought to bear to help jettison and move along this journey of preparing students for adult life. So it's very important to maximize the federal funds and local and district state funds that are presently available. So whether you're a small district or a large district, it really doesn't matter how you do the resource mapping process is the same. The challenge is the same, because you want to figure out how to best use and how to align the resources that you do have, that you do have to achieve the desired results. So once you have that, then also seeking out new resources, knowing what is kind of missing, what are some of the gaps in your resources, what's figuring out the resources that might be out there but are not being utilized, and then to bring those to bear in addition to other valuable resources. So like I said, most importantly, right now with the new federal resources, how can we maximize them, because they're on such a time limited basis, to help us move along the trajectory, move students along in their preparation. Next. So why do resource mapping? Well, it gives you a visual depiction of what resources you have at your hand. So use via that resource map it, so to assist you as a leader, a district leader, or a school leader in making informed decisions about how to focus the resources to achieve their desired results. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll look at what are some of the objectives for completing a resource map. So take a look at these 5 bullets on the slide. And these are some of the objectives for completing a resource map. Some are kind of evident, why you would do it, but the key is really how are resources being used now? And then to what capacity are they being used? And then identifying any gaps, any overlaps and redundancies in the use of the resources, because then you'll be able to examine more closely how you can align them once you know if there's gaps or overlaps. So these are some of the objectives, certainly identifying additional resources that might be needed would be a potential outcome of doing the resource mapping. Which things do I need to seek out, whether it's through grants, or if it's through partnerships with the county or other players, how do you seek out what things are missing? Next. So now we're going to take a look at the steps for doing resource mapping. So if you take out the handouts that Heidi told you, I think are on the left side of your packet, there's some worksheets there. And I'm going to walk through those worksheets with you. Because there's 4 main steps in doing the resource mapping process. So there's these key steps for completing a resource map, and each step has corresponding worksheets. So, and they help you lay out visually your findings, the things that you're finding as you go through the process. And then, so let's just take a minute to spend some time on this. So step number 1 is really the pre-planning phase of doing resource mapping. So you're going to see 2 worksheets that say step number 1 on it, or step 1. The first one is really some probing questions. And this you could either do by yourself, or you could get a couple key people together with you that you already are in close partnership with. Could be it could be a principal, it could be special ed supervisor, could be the community ed director, whatever. And this would be to ask some of these questions and fill out the form as you're going through. These are probing questions about, what do you hope to accomplish? And when you get the team together, when will they meet to do the resource mapping? What's some of the time frame? And then the 5th question really is, what products do you plan to generate from doing resource mapping? Because there's a variety of things you can generate. You can have a list of resources. You can have a visual map of resources. There really isn't one way. I mean, every district, every school, each one of you, your resource map might look a little different, but it would have similar components. Yeah. What are some of the questions you would ask of other school leaders? So that's the probing first step, just to get the ball rolling and to get you started with resource mapping. And the second worksheet is in the pre-planning, is who are those team members? Who are the people that you want to bring together that have knowledge about resources, that are responsible for resources, that tie in again with preparing students with disabilities for the workplace. But so you would fill this out, the people that you want to have, their contact information, and then what's their position or role? Where are they located? Are they located at the district office? Are they located at the county center or the workforce center? So all this will be filled out before you gather the people together. Because the next step is, step number 2, is mapping the resources. So there's 2 sheets that go with that, 2 worksheets. One is a kind of a template that you would organize by program, by service, by activity. And I fill this in just like as an example for you. So if you're looking at, what CTE classes are available, what special ed programs are available, school-based services, agencies, community resources. So I gave an example, even activities, do you have a career day? When does it occur? Once a year, once every 2 years? So this is an example of a visual template of those categories of resources. Again, it's going to look different for every district based on what you currently have. The next worksheet is really what are the resources themselves? How are those resources used in terms of what population is eligible to receive those resources? Who's the contact person? And how frequently is that resource available? And one thing you could do is send this out, invite people to participate in the resource mapping process and have them fill this out before they even come to the table. Because people are so knowledgeable about resources, and that isn't always evident. And you probably have had this experience. I remember it wholeheartedly when a key person leaves the district or leaves, it could be even at the county level. All of a sudden, a lot of information left with that person because it was only in that person's head. It was only in the way they did their work. There was never a place that things were written down that could be passed on. So that whole idea of using resource mapping to, when somebody new comes into the district, you can share with them this visual. These are the resources. Otherwise, it takes years for some staff to acquire the knowledge and experience of how to access resources, when to use it. And I'll never forget parents that would say to me, well, I just want to know all the resources that are available. Well, it's kind of like in the team process, together people share resources that they feel will be pertinent for the student. So this is ultimately going to give you not just a roadmap, but a visual depiction, something in writing that could be shared with new staff, that can be updated. So this step of the process is really mapping the current resources that are available. Because then we go to the third step, and that's analyzing the resources. And that's just as important as writing down what currently exists, because analyzing the resources, step number 3, has 2 worksheets. One is the probing questions. The probing questions is really asking, what did you find out from there? From where, are there any gaps? What's missing? Are there programs that need to be evaluated? So this next sheet, I'm not going to spend time because I see we're starting to run out of time, but you can see the questions that are there, and that would be done by your district action team or by your school action team. And then the second worksheet for analyzing resources to come up with goals and next steps. So now that you found out what exists, now that you asked some of those probing questions, what are you going to do? What do you need to do to either fill in the gaps or eliminate some of the redundancies, or to bring in a partner that's not already at the table that you want to start engaging with to help prepare students with disabilities for the workforce? The fourth step is really maintaining the map and considering how you change it and update it. So the first worksheet there that you can see is really considerations for how you're going to maintain it. Asking things like who's going to be responsible, how often are you going to update it? And then the second worksheet is really being explicit about how many times a year you're going to look at it and update it, who's responsible. So now you have steps 1 through 4. They're really the crux of the resource mapping process. Are there any questions with the process? Is it?
I would just say, as coming from an educated perspective, I think the struggle, and I guess I'm curious as to the special ed directors and coordinators, because you're not necessarily hired, some of you aren't hired to work for a school district, you're hired to work with maybe a variety of school districts, some of you. So I'm just curious, how do you, as an administrator, encourage a school district to start doing this? I mean, to me, that seems like the huge obstacle. Am I right on that? Is that an obstacle
obstacle for you guys or not so much?
It's even an obstacle for single districts that already have their full special education allotment spent. And we're short on career secondary options. We need more. But our budget is already capped, so to speak. To find new funding sources, new ways to spend money in this regard. It's needed, but it's challenging.
Because from the educator perspective, for me, I know that this is a good idea, but unless I start it myself, it doesn't get started by my principal who's already overloaded, or, I'm in a small school district and nobody does it. No movement ever happens. We talk about that, but then nothing happens. That's what I struggle with. I was just looking for a movement back.
Get that right.
Yeah, I didn't hear that interaction, but it sounded good. It sounded like there is some things that either are barriers to doing resource mapping or strategies for doing it. What did I miss here? Anything?
Stephanie, I think it's just about, how do you make it actually happen? And yeah, what
Oh.
are barriers? But sometimes there's financial barriers.
Yes.
Constraints, there's staffing constraints. How do you actually make this happen?
Right. I think you need key leaders to be in charge. And also if it can be tied to an existing committee, like a workforce development, every district has a workforce development committee. This could be like a subcommittee. So whenever you don't have to start something like totally from scratch, if you can piggyback on something that's existing that maybe has a similar focus or that can be expanded, their focus can be expanded. I always find that's a good way to do it. So next we're going to talk about some of the resources. I think, thank you everybody for your comments there. Heidi, next we're talking about the resources, like what new and existing resources are available to make this happen in your school. So we know that some of the federal resources can be aligned with your goals for supporting students with disabilities.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in your packet, Education Associates did this alignment to their project Discovery and Achieve Life Skills for funding sources. Everyone knows that we do have the ARP and the ESSER and, this kind of unprecedented time when we're having money flowing into our schools. And so this mapping was done, and like I said, that it's very evident to me that any of the, programs that I sell, like Project Discovery and PASA, they all fit the criteria for this money. It's just how to get your hands on it. So these were some of the probing questions that Education Associates kind of wrote up to just kind of ask administrators or the people that are kind of holding the funding of this, so that just some questions, probing questions that you could ask. So just wanted you to take a minute to look at that, I guess. Also too, I'm just not sure, and I talked to Stephanie about this, when all of this money kind of came, I think all of the vendors are all kind of scrounging around trying to figure out how we can, tap into this money. And so even myself, I was sent to funding boot camp to learn about all the different funding and the different funding streams that are flowing into the schools. And so I do have access. I'm not sure if it's interesting to any of you people, but I can make a report for your school district that shows all of these funding streams and what the dollar amounts are for your district. So if any of you want that information for your district, I sure could supply it to you. You just have to email me and ask me. Maybe give me a week or two to pull it together, but I do have access to that. I didn't know even how appropriate it was. If you have that information, to maybe go and ask and say, hey, how do we get a piece of this for our students with disabilities and putting them into transition. So we have another slide too here, Steph, on it. And
yeah,
this talks more about the ESSER emergency relief money. And any of the funds that tie into IDEA, CTE, or Title I, and all of those funds can be used to purchase things like PAIS and Project Discovery and all of that kind of curriculum and assessments that we have. So I guess threw in these couple of slides just so that you knew about that. And if any of you want to have that report made, if it's helpful for you, just contact me and I'll get it done for you.
I think we're in a really unique unique period of time where we have many of these resources available to us. I don't remember, maybe but one or two other times in my 40-year career that we had funds like this that could be targeted for the use of our students with disabilities. I know there's many needs, but transition is one of them. But these resources have been enhanced, and then they are aligned specifically to focus on the things we talked about in this presentation. So hopefully now you are undoubtedly here because you want to know what some next steps might be related to your district. So we appreciate you coming. Our last slide here is really the resources that we found that were helpful, and maybe you could you would find them as well to be helpful. Either their reports or their different statistics that show some of the discrepancies that we talked about, or some of the needs in areas like the middle school. And then the Minnesota Department of Ed has a couple resources that we put there for you that you could access, and that's successfully preparing students with disabilities for integrated competitive employment. Heidi?
All right, so we're just gonna open it up to questions. I don't know if you all have any questions. We just have a few more minutes. I was gonna prepare it to field any questions about Phase Lab or Project Discovery or any of that. Of course, you guys can come see me at my booth. I'll be down there after lunch if you want to talk about any of that. Just open it up if any of you have any questions or even comments. We really like feedback. Was this useful? It's such a crazy time in the schools right now. We didn't even know if this would be appropriate to bring this up at this kind of a time, but this funding is available over the next 3 and for some of the funding streams over the next 4 years. So this is going to be around for a while. So that's why we kind of thought that maybe we could take a look at this funding or the mapping resources now that, maybe that would help down the line. So any feedback? What do you guys think? Or Steph always wants feedback, so we've been working on this for a while.
Right, and we're going to present in Wisconsin in November and in February. So any feedback you have that would, I mean, if this is a useful tool, if this is a strategy that you think will be beneficial for you, that would be good for us to know that.
Do any of your districts have this kind of resource mapping or committees going on already?
We don't, and that's why I appreciate this.
Good to know. Good to know.
Did you hear that, Steph? They like your tools and your worksheets.
Oh, good, great, glad to hear that.
Thank you for that feedback, and I'll be around here if you have any questions or really appreciate you coming to our workshop. All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great conference. Did they fill out evaluations, Heidi?
I forgot to make evaluations, Steph. Don't be mad at me.
No, Mace does it. Doesn't
Oh, Mace does it. Okay. Do it online, they said.
Oh, it's online. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, hi.
Oh, yeah.
How are you? Oh, how are you, Andrew?
I have to let you know that Judy's moving in the right direction this year.
Oh, well, and that's thanks to your leadership. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there was a key player that is no longer a teacher there.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
that
well,
has helped things quite a bit.
yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, you have a wonderful program. I was so happy and excited to be part of it.
It's definitely moving in the right direction. So thank you
Oh.
for all your help too.
Well, you're welcome. Say hi to Kathy for me too, Andrea.
I will.
Okay, bye-bye. Jenny, I thought that was you. I was gonna, when you came in, I was gonna say, is that Jenny O'Neill Mager?
It is. How are
Oh,
you?
good. How are you? How you doing with your bond? Yeah. How long do you have to wear that?
I'm hoping
that it will be, I hit 4 months yesterday, the day before. So I'm hoping that by Christmas I'll be all out of it.
I'm so sorry, Jenny.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
kind of a bummer.
yeah.
Kind
And
of a bummer, but.
yeah, it was a bike accident, huh?
Mhm.
Did you fall or get hit or?
I fell and went into a hole and my legs, I landed on my head and my legs flipped back.
Oh,
So I broke it in 2 spots. So,
well, thank God you didn't
yeah,
get, thank God you didn't get hurt worse.
yes, I was really lucky. I had a bike accident in the summer and
Were you by yourself or was somebody with you? Was somebody with you?
Steve was up ahead. And so
Okay.
he found me and he came, I didn't make it to the lake edge. And so he came back and found me. I was coming to at that time. So yeah, it's been
Oh,
kind
wow.
of Idaho and 5 days in intensive care and
Oh, you were in Idaho? You were right
Yeah.
next door to me.
we
Yeah.
were camping and yeah. So
Oh. Well, it was certainly a life experience you could have passed on, right?
absolutely, absolutely. But
I miss you so much.
I know. So next time you come,
Okay,
text, next time you come visit. I ran into
will.
Carla the other day and she said, well,
Uh-huh.
she stays with me when she's come, but
Yeah.
so give us a holler.
I will, it was so busy every time I came,
Yeah.
selling my mom's house and all that
Right.
stuff. But now in January, I'm gonna come, so maybe we can
Okay.
meet Jackie too. That would be so
Yes.
nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sounds good. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Bye
gonna
bye.
let you go. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
I was talking to the trainer.
Jenny,
Yes, ma'am.
I wrote my back 5 years ago.
Oh.
So I saw you earlier and I realized, I'm like, what's the break?
The 7 and the 9. So right up here
Yeah.
and then right behind the shoulder blades. Right here. Yeah, it was, like we were camping and we went to see the sunset. And so, yeah, it wasn't where I was gonna.
Are
you
kidding, Jenny? So I totally
Yeah.
get it. So, where did you end up going?
To the trauma unit in Idaho Falls. As a trauma unit.
So when did it happen?
June 26th.
And when you got out of that?
Hopefully I should be done by Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm in the weaning process now.
Oh, yeah, I was full for 12 weeks. I was on.
Hey, Heidi.
Jenny about it.
I know, that's okay. I know you guys,
That.
I know.
I told Pam we'll debrief. We'll make a Zoom meeting to debrief. I'll text you. She's gonna be in my booth this afternoon and we'll figure
Okay.
out a date to do that.
Yeah, well, don't do anything that takes you away from what's going on there, because that's all important stuff. So I mean, just overall, did you think it went okay or?
I think it went fabulous. I think everyone really liked your resources too. They all seem to be really happy about it. So I think it went terrific. And having you up there, that I'm so glad we did it at South Wash and practiced and knew to have you bid like that. It was like you were here with us. It was really, really, really nice.
Well, we should be able to do it in Wisconsin then, right? The same way.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to do it the same way. And they have tech people, so I don't have to be as nervous. Like they have a pretty high tech at Kalahari, and I might get Pam Stock to come with too and help.
Oh, good, good.
She could. I don't know if she
It
can,
just,
but
yeah, well, that's good. And if we used all the time, Heidi.
I know, it went perfect. Everything went perfect,
Oh,
so.
good. Okay, well, go have lunch and Pam.
Good job. It was awesome. You
Well,
did a
good.
wonderful job, so.
Well, it was a team. I mean, we couldn't have done it without
I
all
think
three of us, yeah. And I love
agree.
that Pam jumped in and
I did
commented,
too.
so.
I did too.
Hey.
I knew she'd be able to do that even though she was coming in blind. I knew it, so.
You work on your feet. She works on her feet, right?
Yeah, exactly. I knew it. I knew that would be fine, so.
How many people were there? Can you tell by the packets? How many you got left out of 30?
There were 10 people. So we didn't have a huge group, but they were all very engaged. They were all very engaged and all participated and they were all taking notes.
And,
Jason came in that minute 11.
Jason from Duluth came in at the last
I
minute, so
saw
he would have
him.
been 11. I gotta talk to him later. But,
Okay.
it was a lot of people that already have Haze Labs and Project
Oh, okay.
Discovery. There was, Elk River was the one that doesn't have it yet, but you know,
Okay.
that's great. I mean, I'm just so thrilled about how it went. I think it went just fabulous,
Well,
so.
Stephanie, I think what is the best piece is the the concrete, the worksheets and the actual plan.
Oh, should we spend more time on that then, Pam, do you think, or?
Because in theory, I mean, the theory and the philosophy, everybody, you were really preaching to the choir and they get that
Oh,
piece.
okay.
It's the actual, okay, this is a plan. I think what you did was fine, but they were really like, oh yeah. This is
Okay. We can spend more time on that in Wisconsin for sure. We'll do, maybe take out some slides or.
5 more minutes for sure on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was, like they said, they have, a couple of them have committees, but they can't be there all the time. And they don't know, nobody has anything written down on how this should really proceed.
Okay.
So they're very glad to have the worksheets and the framework that you did like that. They're very happy to have that.
So one more thought, I'll let you guys go have lunch. Heidi, what's nice about the conference, all those documents, the PowerPoint and everything, everybody has that. So even though they didn't come to the session, they go back and they look at it, or they're looking at it during the conference. So all that, it's hitting everybody, not just the 10 people that are there. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. So
too,
everyone.
And I love that we have our little website with everything on it.
I do
so.
too. I do too. Can you send me the PDF that you made for Gina for the MACE conference? I'd like to have the presentation in the PDF.
Oh, and she had me make it in 3-up. It's 3 slides to a page with the notes page on it.
Oh, okay.
You want it that way, or would you rather have just a PDF of full page slides? PDF?
Probably the PDF of full page. Yeah.
Okay, I can make that very easy for you and send it to you.
Okay.
I will do that.
Ciao, ciao. I'll talk to you soon.
You did so wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.